Okay. Hey, 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 hey. How's everyone doing this morning? This evening. It is a nice. Oh, okay. There we go. It is a nice, cold, cloudy December 29th, 2023. I'm Justin. Welcome to the art stream. We're gonna do some art today because I've been slacking on art quite a bit, and I've wanted to force myself to draw a little bit, and see what we can do, right? At a certain point, if you're not putting hours in front of the paper or the tablet or whatever it is you're trying to draw, then you're just not going to improve, right? And so we are super late in the year. Super late. It's the 29th. There are exactly 2 days left in 2023. My cat is being irritating behind me. He's like, hey, play. It's time to play normally. So I apologize about that. But yeah, hello to everyone watching live, which looks like no one, which is fine. Hi to all the VOD watchers, dog walkers, all y'all. You guys are the real ones. Am I actually live? Is that a thing? Okay. Looks like it. All right. So, as always, uh, if you like, I'm doing art this stream. Good time for you to work on hobbies of your choice. Pick up your sketchbook, pick up your iPad, your drawing implement of choice. Maybe you're painting Warhammer, maybe you're doing watercolors, maybe you're crocheting, maybe you're filing your taxes. I don't know what you're doing, but go ahead and get your stuff out. We're going to go ahead and get ourselves warmed up here. Get this canvas nice and fresh. Oh, there you are. Hello. So, at some point, I got a new toy. I got the new version of Rebelle, which is apparently supposed to have really, 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 really good paint blending. Like, it actually blends pigments in a realistic way, kind of like you would on a paintbrush, using like watercolors or oils, and you can like wet the paper and do crazy stuff like that. So we're gonna mess around with that, but we're not doing that right now. We're gonna start like we normally do. Oh. Let's go ahead and get the hand warmed up. Do some basic strokes. Tell your brain that it is time to do art. Instead of whatever the hell you were doing before. Yeah, that one. Draw some basic shapes, draw some spheres, draw some cylinders. Maybe start like manipulating the direction in space. You're just kind of working out your hand, practicing what you know, practicing figuring out kind of what your head is up to today. I usually like to start with, oh God, just some basic structures. Do cutouts, just kind of make yourself more aware of the art process. Got an alert on my computer as soon as you started. Got an alert on my phone. Some number of minutes hidden behind a heart. A big old heart in the way. A heart amount of minutes later. Okay. That's weird. So I actually got an alert on my phone immediately. Because I'm also subscribed to myself as... you know how things go. But yeah, that's weird. 6 minutes. You know, this cutout exercise is like super helpful, man. It's like really good at kind of helping get yourself aligned in space. And you can just start really simple, like I'm just gonna round out these corners. So I want to talk about my art goals for next year. I want to kind of play around with Rebelle, and you know, just kind of get your hand, kind of just get my hands moving. You know, it'd be cool to get a piece kind of started that I can post before the end of the year. Just kind of one last thing to put on the gram, but you know, I'm not holding my breath there. So just kind of see if that would work out. That did not work out. Still have to do my... Still got to do the structure stuff. No, I do not want to cut this layer. Kind of getting my hand just sort of in motion, right? So I'm going to do an exercise I've not done in a minute. It's called automatic drawing. Proko has a good video on it. There are a couple other really good ones out there. The idea is you just kind of like let your hand and your mind wander. Just think of it like doodling, but you're not really kind of consciously drawing. You're just sort of letting your hand go and put whatever stroke needs to come next, you know. And it's a good way to kind of like see where you're at, like both mentally, kind of as an artist, like what are your, you know, shape language tendencies. At least that's what they say. I'm not at a point where I'm worried about my shape language or anything like that. You know, design stuff, but you know, kind of the whole idea more than anything is to just sort of like clear your head, let your hand kind of do a lot of the talking, right? You know, I'm not necessarily coming out here and saying, oh yeah, I want to draw a picture plan, or you know, whatever it is that this shape is going to be. And it kind of is just sort of a scribble, but you know, when it feels like the scribble is complete, you just move on to the next one. This one's kind of doing a Final Fantasy airship sort of thing. Also a good way to like kind of get your wrist loose, get your kind of mind in art mode. That's something that I've been struggling with lately, is kind of transitioning from life mode, from playing video games, although I've not been doing much of any of that. Fucking watching YouTube or binging Yellowstone or thinking about work or whatever bullshit, to just kind of coming in here and saying we are spending the next handful of hours just kind of working on art. That kind of thing. So keep working on that until you kind of feel comfortable. I obviously moved into figure. That's sort of where my head's at. I'm going to kind of quickly do a couple 5-minute gestures just to sort of get my hand and my brain thinking about that. I think at that point we can kind of start talking about art goals, what I did well this year, what I could improve on, that kind of thing. I'm using Sketch Daily tonight, reference.sketchdaily.net. Adjust the settings to your level of comfort, and we're gonna do just 3 or 4 of these. Switch to pencil. Wait till I get a good one. I'm looking for something specific tonight. Here we go. So I think so. I've been reading. I got a copy of this drawing manual called the Vilpu Guide. It's kind of basically out of print. It's kind of surprisingly hard to find. Found it on Internet Archive, surprisingly, and kind of an older book. It's from the like late '90s, early 2000s. It's kind of given me like a new framework to kind of approach some of these gestures on. I've not been doing it quite as much as I should have, and so that's why these are maybe looking a little bit rougher than how I would have liked, but what I'm kind of really focusing on more than um, good draftsmanship, right, is I'm really trying to work on making sure my gesture's on point, that there's good flow kind of between the body parts, the proportions are reasonable. Head's the right size for the body. Head's a little bit small, but that's a common mistake I make. You know, that's actually just part of drawing in the sketchbook to start, you know. You gotta warm up first, you know. You're not like, especially when you're doing gesture, like the idea is you're not supposed to kind of create drawings you're happy with, especially not at first. That's kind of something that you develop over time. You get to a point where like, oh, I'm actually really kind of happy with how these are looking. You know, I'm not really there either. actually kind of bad. It's like, this is good for a 3-minute pose, but I still got another 2 minutes, and I'm just kind of thinking, hey, I'm actually kind of happy with this, at least for what I'm doing today, you know? Gotta be kind of careful. I did mark this as not for kids, but you never know what'll happen, especially after Twitch made their fuck up. You kind of knew it was going to happen. You kind of knew that exactly what happened was going to happen when they did those rules, but it's still a real fucking shame that people, you know, they gave an inch, and it was really just an inch, and you know, people took a mile. Just gonna try to push that hip a little bit further. There we go. This will be the last one I do today. Yeah, no, they totally did. It was kind of a shitty situation, obviously. Like, I don't know. I don't actually give a shit if... I don't give a shit about the hot tub streamers. I don't give a shit about what... You know, about what Morg Pie was doing, about what... You know, any of what was going on there. I don't give a shit, man, dude. As long as you're not hurting anyone, as long as your streams are marked appropriately, then, you know, there are terms of service. Was it pushing the line? Yeah, I was kind of pushing the line, but, you know, it was not, none of it was breaking TOS, right? Maybe breaking the spirit of TOS, and that's a different conversation, but that is... This whole thing right here is a sign I need to fucking work on leg anatomy. Which, hey, art goals coming up, right? Art goals in 24. I'm gonna learn me some muscles and bones. How a fucking human is constructed. This actually isn't pushed far enough. What I really need to have happen is the torso needs to be like this, and the hips need to be back like this. Just a real hard squash, hard stretch. But we're already kind of late in there. But things about this pose I don't hate. So, but like the really shitty thing is you had artists that were like legitimately doing like reasonable content within the new guidelines, you know. And the guidelines were very clear of what was and what was not allowed. And there's honestly some of the people in bounds that I saw get suspended, which was like, okay, you know. Obviously, that's probably just shouldn't have made the decision in the first place. I understand why they did, but it was one of those things. So anyway, turnip pen. That's a little thin. Our goals for 24. So with New Year's resolutions, it's kind of tricky. It's really easy to say things like, I want to draw every day, but that's one of those things you're immediately gonna fail. And the second you don't draw, you're like, ah, shit. Oh, well. Whatever. So I'm not gonna do that. What I would like to try to do, though, is kind of let's go thinner. You know, kind of generate a more, how do you call it? I want to take art and I want to make it a stress reliever versus a stressor, if that makes sense. So kind of one of the things this year for me is, and I think ADHD has a big part of this, but you know, when you have a expectation that you're going to draw, and you're like, hey, I want to draw, I really want to draw, why aren't you drawing? Hey, why don't you get off, why don't you get out of that chair and draw? And then you don't, or you can't, or you know, what have you. It kind of creates like a negative relationship between yourself and, you know, between yourself and the action, right? There's now this I don't know if you want to call it guilt or what you want to call it, but there's now this tension between doing something that's supposed to be fun kind of because you want to do it and because it's fun, and then kind of because you have to, right? And so it's more of a matter of like feeling like I have to do art, which kind of has been the case. My whole feeling has been, you know, I want to make steady improvement. I don't want to take huge breaks between when I'm sitting down and drawing. I want to, you know, these are self-stated goals, but kind of having that expectation there is, you know, creates tension, turns art into a stress more than a source of stress relief. So if I imagine like the perfect situation is, you know, at the end of the day, end of day, instead of, you know, scrolling Twitter or watching random YouTube, I'm drawing. It's just the thing I do before bed, or the thing I do first thing in the morning. You know, I get up, I make coffee, I take a shower, I play with my cat for a bit, and then I draw for 15-20 minutes, and that's just sort of part of your morning routine. It might actually be more productive for my other parts of life to do it at the end of the day, but you know, the idea is kind of turn art into a habit, right? Turn art into a habit, and because it's part of a habit, it's still something you want to do. If I don't, like, actually don't feel like doing art, then, you know, fuck it, I won't. But anyway, I want to complete a sketchbook start to finish. So, you know, in order to do that, those things are 120 pages, typically. Not exactly small. But, you know, I have a sketchbook, my first sketchbook that I got back in 2021, March of 2021. Being like, yeah, I'll do some art. I still haven't finished that damn thing. I have like 3 pages left. I'm so fucking close. But, kind of one of the things that happens is I started making good art in it towards the end, and I was like, oh shit, do I actually want to waste one of these pages and put out some total shit? And so I've got some other sketchbooks. Like I have a big blue one that I was using for like practice and warm up, kind of this time last year. That a little more than halfway through, that is kind of perfect for this sort of thing. I've just been kind of doing little doodles in it, and you can do little thumbnail scenes, kind of. Have the nuclear cooling towers in the background. There's a mountain there right next to it for some reason, and you're just thumbnailing. You're just sort of kind of doing small things like that. And you just fill a page, and just kind of do a whole sketchbook of those. As far as learning goals, there are kind of three key things that I want to actually hammer home super hard. Anatomy. I'm just going to call it rendering, but I'm talking specifically about not just light and shadow, but also color theory. What are the right colors to use, and when to use them, and how to adjust colors for light and shadow, and or how colors shift in the value, and kind of get that real in control. Kind of as I said on Twitter the other day, fucking colors, how do they work? That's what I'm talking about here. I need to understand all of it. I've very much been an artist who's kind of stuck with just, the drawing part, the lines, the line work. And I kind of only towards the end of this year have I actually said, okay, yeah, I want to kind of get into the painting part. And so I'm doing that. I'm realizing there's all sorts of shit that I just know absolutely nothing about. And we are going to fix that. And then composition. What makes a specific picture look appealing? How do you arrange the elements on the page to make them look good? Big. That's not that much medium. Big and medium and small. Kind of do the crazy formal composition with the lines and the that crazy diagram. I don't know if you've ever seen those. It's the one Loomis book I don't have. The Creative Illustration is the one book where he goes fucking hard on Um, he was real fucking hard on composition. And that's the book I don't have. So. So kind of what I want to do is there's an artist on Instagram. Hada. Let me make sure I get his name correct. Because the guy is doing the thing that I really want to do. Hold on one second. Hada4564 is his Instagram. On Twitter, he's lhada4564. But this guy is doing character portraits with just absolutely crazy pushed anatomy or crazy pushed perspective. He was doing like early Dragon Quest characters earlier. Like here's a good example. Just crazy angles and really far close in shots and just the perspective, like really crazy forced perspective and all of it. That guy is good. I want to start doing stuff like that. It's awesome. Yeah, he's good. Go follow Hada. That guy rules. Chinese artist or Korean. Chinese art or Japanese artist. So what is this all for? I guess kind of all of this kind of ties into. I need to actually figure out what. I need to figure out what all of this is in service of, because I've been thinking more and more about why am I doing art? Like what is the reason? And it's not because I want to is a perfectly valid one, but I also feel like after a certain point, if it was truly just because you want to or because it's fun or as a hobby, you eventually fall off at a certain point, right? And so maybe it's the diet of art content on the internet that I feed into, but there's a lot of professional artists out there who are kind of making me question, okay, do I want to try to make some cash on this at some point? Obviously, I don't think that's a next year goal. That's 3-year, 5-year, 10 years down the line, you know, what does the world look like where people are trying to commission me, right? And so like that, those are new thoughts. And so one of the things that I do want to do, and it's stupid, it's vain, it's kind of not what I set out for, but I want to get to 100 people on Insta. I know that's a stupid low number, but I'm at 39. And so if I can convince 60 random people to like my art account, 61 random people to like my art account, obviously I'm doing something right. And then from there, you know, if I don't, then it's like, okay, you know, I'll just continue to use my art account as an art diary, progress journal, whatever. I'll stop caring, but I kind of want to make a push and figure out what works, what doesn't, what, you know what I mean? And so if that 100 becomes 1,000, cool. If that 100 is actually 50, then okay. That's fine. I'll still continue to do art for myself. That's not changing. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm aiming for next year. Kind of in the short term, I'm gonna try to do. I saw a video. It was like one of those guys with less than 1,000 followers, or less than 1,000 subscribers. So God only knows how good advice this is, but I'm gonna try to do little sprints as far as learning. And so what I think I'm gonna try to start doing is I'm gonna take next week, and that's gonna start a 3-week sprint. My goal for this year, as of like a week ago, was like hit 40, and I hit 40 on Wednesday, and then someone unfollowed me on Thursday. I was like, oh well, I hit it. I want to, you know, whatever. The follower count doesn't actually matter, and so that's why I'm like, okay, hey, if I can get people, fucking awesome. If I can't, then whatever. But sprint 1 is like I'm gonna do. Let's say I do torsos, and the exact content is up for debate. So I'm just gonna spend 3 weeks focusing hard on drawing torsos, and I'm gonna get as good as I can in 3 weeks, and then I'm gonna have a week off. So week 4 will be like an evaluation week where I'm doing personal art, where I'm doing kind of more complete, more fully rendered, you know, the kind of stuff I have been drawing. And yeah, I've not posted much. I've not kind of shown a whole lot of art that I've been making lately, but draw things that are not torsos. Although that'll be in there. And then as part of the eval week is you figure out what sprint 2 is going to be. And so then I might say, okay, we're in February. Now we're going to do hands. Hello, welcome to Hands Hell. Hands should have been January, so you could say Hansuary. But I don't know if I want to spend 3 weeks working on hands starting next week. That sounds bad. That sounds like a bad time. I can do a rubber hose hand. Sort of. Yeah, that looked bad, but you get the idea. And then, so here's the thing. While I'm doing hands, every now and then, I'll also come in and add torsos, just to make sure I'm not forgetting it. Right? And then when sprint 3 occurs, and I decide, okay, now we're doing, we're going to learn all of the muscles in the arm. That's a good... While we're doing that, we're also coming back and we're adding in hands and we're adding in torsos. And so, obviously, arms, big part of that is how do they attach to the torso at the shoulder? How does the hand attach at the wrist? Although, probably you're doing a lot of that during hands week. You might actually reverse those, right? And that sort of thing. I might realize, hey, halfway through torso week, it's like, oh, damn, my hips, like all of my hips and hip connections look like ass. So, haha, we're doing hips in sprint 4, right? And that's just sort of how we do it. And I'm gonna take it 3 weeks at a time. I'm gonna see how things feel. And it's just going to kind of compound on each other. Although really you're not... I guess when you hit to the point where you're doing hands and arms and stuff, you've simplified it enough. You're working on it, but it's not your focus. Your focus is on... the hip. And so I don't know if this is the plan, if this is the order I'm going to do it in. I'm either going to... let me back up. So the other part of this that this guy said not to do, but I'm kind of thinking I could maybe get away with it, is kind of the whole point of doing it this way is that you're focusing on one thing at a time. You're focusing on getting good at one thing at a time. You're not trying to study anatomy and study rotating. You're not studying form, and you're not studying perspective, and you're not studying all of these different things all at the same time and trying to very, very slowly progress at all of them simultaneously. You're focusing on one thing, and you're going to get okay. You're going to understand the concept within however long you decide to do it. And so I'm debating, anatomy is a beast of a concept, right? Anatomy is probably a 6-week, or it's not 6 weeks, 6-month venture. 6 months of just doing anatomy. But while I'm doing that, it's extremely not my focus, but on the side burner, I'm looking at color theory. I'm looking at perspective. And perspective as it applies to the human body, not doing backgrounds and 1, 2, 3 point perspective formally. That is something I do want to eventually get to. I don't know if that's going to be, next year. But like lighting, for example, like lighting, light and shadow. You're working on light and shadow here. 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 You know what I mean? As you're doing torsos, you're pushing the perspective. As you look at hands, you might do crazy angles that push perspective. As you look at arms, you're going to do things coming right at you versus, you know. These are all things that you are progressing over the long term. It's not a one and done kind of thing. I think at least where people feel like they're not making progress is when I decide I'm going to study torsos today. I'm going to study lighting tomorrow, and we're just going to shade a bunch of spheres. And that's what we're doing today. And then the next day, I'm going to work on hands. And then the day after that, we're going to go back and take a look at perspective. We're going to draw some backgrounds. And, you know, you're doing something different every day, but none of it is cohesive. You know what I mean? None of it's actually, like, none of it ties into each other. Now, like, look, with lighting, it is a trillion times easier to purple shift this. You know. You know what I mean? It's so much easier to like focus on like the spheres first, and go ahead and do all of that. Let's drop a mid-tone. Push that a little bit darker. You know what I mean? It's so much easier to do this first, but I think it's actually super helpful. You know, if you look at a hand and you're looking at hands and you understand how light is cast on the hand and how, like, this muscle here is casting a shadow on the palm, right? Things like that. I'm like, okay, this is all stuff I can work with. This is all, it's complicated, but, you know, it's not so complicated that you're like, ugh, you know. And like, yeah, your lighting, your shading, your perspective. Let me get back to my pen. Here is going to be a hell of a lot worse than it's going to be down here. But I don't know. The thing I need to figure out within the next few days is if I follow a track that looks like this and focus on anatomy first and then have things like color theory and lighting and perspective and composition on the back burner, or if I flip it, right? If I go ahead and I put a color theory sprint at the top and then do a perspective sprint at the top and then do a lighting sprint right after that and kind of get some of this stuff out of the way before I jump into anatomy for the next 6 months. So I have 2 days to figure that out. Drop that a little bit. Oh, that's I was just doing the soft round, not the soft round opacity. God damn it. It's a good exercise, man. Shading spheres. That looks bad, but it's one of the best ones I've done. Anyway, I've been blabbering on for an hour and 15. Okay. Let's go ahead and check out Rebelle, shall we? This one's blue. Okay, that's interesting. So if you hold control, you can opacity up and down. You can size left and right. That's actually pretty neat. Let's go ahead and add some pigments. So we're gonna go ahead and yeah, exactly. Patty Rebelle. Oh, you see how it's bleeding? Okay, so that's still the eraser. All right. And just like real paint, you can sort of erase, but not really. That's fucking funny. That's so goddamn funny. I want to know how I got that red to fly off like that. That was cool. There we go. Just kind of flick it. Interesting. Yeah, this, hey, you know what? If I actually, like, I have watercolors. I have a pretty cheap set of Sakuras. Try to find it. Yeah, the koi set. Um, Dude, this exact one. This exact one. Oh, it's not letting me. I have the Sakura Koi Pocket Field Sketch Kit watercolor sets for painting on the go. 24 colors, 1 water brush, 1 sponge, 1 mixing palette. $24.50 on Amazon. Good time. I might actually start using those so I can start using the software. Understand water. So apparently there's also oils. So I could do... Yeah, so there's watercolor, there's gouache. Oh, that's cool. I want to switch to oils. Oh, here we go. Oils and acrylics. Okay, you can add extra water or remove all the water. So this is a wet layer. This is really interesting. Okay, so if you tap light, that you can see it was like pulling the color there. Oh, that's really interesting, man. And so the other thing I want to show that I'm actually pretty excited about is, how do I add a layer? Show me new layer. New layer. Then there is something with, you can do metallics. You can do like metallic paint. I think I remember seeing that there's a specific pastels, pencils, inks. I'll have to figure that out. But you can, like, they have metallic paint in here. There's a thing that you had to do. Oh, metallic, down at the bottom. That kind of looks metallic, kind of. Interesting. There's a thing you had to do to like actually make it go metallic, though. Oh, here we go. I might have to look at this later, off stream, just to. This is absolutely thrilling content, right? Oh, this was the other thing you could do. You could put in a structure. I don't know if I have any. So there are a couple things you could do. You could create paths, which are basically like these vector sections, these vector paths. And when you draw paint on a wet canvas, it'll automatically follow the path as it goes. So you can kind of pre-create rivulets in a certain way, so that you can have it follow certain things. And you can also do something called like a structure, which is it sort of mimics the effect of like if you're rubbing a piece of graphite. I don't know if you've ever done like carbon copying, where you're like putting a piece of paper and you're doing this with the paper to try to get the image underneath. It basically is doing that. You take like a JPEG, you take an image, and you put it on its own layer, and you set it up as a structure, and then as you paint over it, it's gonna go around the lines in the image underneath. So you can do crazy things like that. It's super cool. I'm excited to play around with this, kind of as like a finishing step for what I do in Clip Studio, right? Oh, that's OBS. Here's Clip Studio. So let's draw. Draw a little bit longer. Actually, I'm going to take a short break. Hold on. I'm back. Having a good old side discussion about Parakeet Hitler, which, if you know, you know. We are drawing. So I want to do a character exercise. I'm not expecting this to be any good. To be real honest, I'm not super. Hold on. Man, Pinterest fuck up its goddamn or is, you know what's going on? The opera. Yeah, there we go. The ad blocker. Yeah, there we go. So I'm borrowing an idea. This is always good to do. It's the best. It's the way the best ideas are made. Is you take someone else's idea and you iterate, right? So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and just get to pure black again. This is the one thing I've been using a lot more Procreate, and I have it set to the color square just so I can always get pure black, pure white, and then I'm just using the hue slider. But I really just, if I could just have the color wheel and then the square, or even the triangle. The triangle's fine too. Triangle's actually probably better, but the weird circle that Procreate does. Are you at pure black? Or are you at some weird hue? Or, you can never tell. Anyway, we're sketching. So I am taking an idea kind of based off the idea you had for Loxon, Ian. And I am going to kind of take that to its inevitable conclusion. I'm not stealing your OC. I'm using your OC as a baseline. It's a good idea. I don't know. Call it a redesign. Call it. If you want to call me stealing it, then I am redesigning it. I just had this idea. I've had this idea for a few months, and I've just been too much of a coward to actually try it. So that's what we're doing today. We're doing that, and then I need to shrink this down. Here. First, let's not even call it stealing your OC. I am drawing your OC. I am just drawing Loxon, but with some ideas of my own, let's say. This was very much something I was going to do before you threw them in the bin. So this is just the sketch phase. basically my idea was, okay, let's Turtle Samurai. Let's go ahead and take that and bring it all the way to the conclusion there. We're gonna give it a fucking crazy ass like crocodile shogun mask. We're gonna go ahead and give him just like the full treatment samurai armor. We're gonna go all the way, man. And so that's what I was working on, kind of in the weeks kind of leading up to the game. Maybe I flip these. Maybe this becomes the small one. The Gator Mask one becomes the big one. But yeah, if you prefer I not to, I'm completely open to that. You know, I don't want to cause issues. You know, it's an art idea. It's not anything I'm that. Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. Yeah, I didn't want to cross a line if I was accidentally crossing a boundary. Um, cool. Just do some little thumbnails. So I found out a little bit of interesting translation stuff, kind of when I was researching this project before. Like now that I've seen it, it's like, oh yeah, totally, duh. Um, Turtle Samurai, Kame Samurai is a phrase used to like insult people and call them a coward. Oh, look at you, the Turtle Samurai. You fled from battle and hid in your shell, kind of thing. And it's like, well, that's not really what I think he was going for with that. you know. Hey, straight lines, parallel lines. You got to just practice them. For months, my art practice was just different lengths, connecting points. Same with circles. I'll tell you what. Probably drawn 4,000 or 5,000 fucking freehand circles, and now I can more or less get a circular shape basically at will. The key thing is you do have to draw with your... You do have to draw them with your whole arm. You can do really tiny ones with just your fingers, but you put your wrist down, you try to do this thing, you're not going to happen. But yeah, if you get to a point where you get an actual like drawing tablet, kind of part of your dexterity, like relearning all of your dexterity for this damn art tab is going to be just doing these straight lines. And like a lot of the time, even now when I draw on my iPad, like to start, if I'm not working on details, I'll have to put it down on the table so that I have, control. Eventually you'll hit the point where you're doing curved line exercises like this. Try to get them closer. The idea is you're supposed to get them as close together as you can without them touching, and also as smooth as you can. I've kind of neglected this one, but now if I'm working on a small detail, like I'm coming in here and I'm drawing all the individual little filigrees and shit like that on the skull, for example. I can just have this in my hand or on the couch, or but if I need to draw a big shape, I need to draw like a good, like, that was not a good one. Good controlled curve. You have the most control when you're able to use your arm. Especially drawing big. I found, like, one of the things that with the first iPad that I just couldn't stand. You'd think, the 11 inch is only 2 inches smaller than the 12.9, but that makes such a difference when you're trying to, like, do big swooping motions and you're trying to, use your arm to make sure your lines are straight. And, like, yeah, I can do that with my fingers. You can already see things are wonkier. But then again, also I've been drawing cubes for 6 months. I bought one of those, like, little pocket sketchbooks. And I have the same problem with that. It's like, this is actually too small for me to get, like, really good control to, like, do the, especially when it comes to, like, line art, where it actually matters how smooth your lines are, whereas if you're trying to I guess that's one, but you can see the difference. You can see how this is a smoother line than this one. There. Perfect example. Drew this one with my wrist, drew this one with my arm. Let's work around. All right. What do I even want to do? I don't have all the reference I need. I think that's part of the issue. Anywho, it's been about 2 hours, so I think I might call it for tonight. We got through the art goals at least. Hey, hey Sean. So, I have been drawing since 2021. And I only really started kind of doing it seriously since April of last year. And even then, I'm not like drawing every day. I'm drawing a couple times a week, if that. So I'm still extremely fresh, right? You know, I drew a bunch when I was in middle and high school, but that's way too long ago. Basically, before 21, I hadn't drawn in 10 years, almost. So, hadn't done any art in like 10 years, in a really, really long time. So, oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I will kind of go through. Yeah, I feel like I'm. I don't know. I go back and forth. I feel like the stuff I'm doing this is obviously very messy. This is meant to be a sketch, but even then, obviously there's. Yeah, sure. You can follow me on Instagram at jlartsen. So JLARTSEN. I'm gonna try posting more next year. That's kind of my whole deal. You can kind of see sort of me going from square one to sort of where I'm at now, and oh yeah, thank you. I'm actually I'm about to call it. It's 10 o'clock at night my time, so I'm gonna go ahead and settle in, get ready for bed. I'm an old man, so kind of get ready and then see about going to sleep. So, hey, thanks for stopping by. I don't know if you subscribe, but if not, go ahead and do that. That'd be awesome. I'd really appreciate it. Also, follow on Instagram if you could. That'd be sick. I'd actually really appreciate that. All right. Go ahead and get a better pen. Oh my God. All right, y'all. I hope you have a good rest of your day and your evening. And yeah, I will I might do this again soon. We'll either continue this one or we'll figure something else out. But yeah.